Hello to everyone, and welcome to another episode of Quality Talks. I'm so excited about this episode because we will touch a topic that has been a complete nightmare to every QA throughout their career. And I'm very excited to know what Michael has to share and to teach us today. So, without further ado, let's begin our new episode today. And I'm so happy to welcome to our episode Michael Bodnarchuk, right from Ukraine. Hello.
Hello, hello.
Just to let you know first, before we officially begin, there might be some issues with power due to current circumstances and to current aggression that is happening in Ukraine uh, from Russia. So because of that, we might stop or pause our podcast. But don't worry, you will have access to a full episode once it's ready.
Yeah,
Uh,
I'm in the backyard of my house and connected to my neighbor's Wi-Fi just to be this podcast because currently with power outages I don't have connection at all. So, but we have a
Thank
good
you so
neighbors here
much
in
for
Ukraine.
thank you so much for finding time and good neighbors to make this possible because I think the topic is really worth it. But before that, I would love you to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit more who you are and what have you been doing.
Yeah, I am a developer which is very passionate about testing. And when I discovered that I can improve my code with tests, I started to investigate what actual options there are on the market that could work and make good tests. And unfortunately, I didn't find ones. So it started with PHP. I worked as a PHP
Okay.
developer and I created my own PHP testing framework. We're pretty popular in that ecosystem, Conception. And
Wow.
then a few years later, I started to work more on Node.js, and I saw a great potential there. That Node.js was already a highly, rapidly growing platform with more solutions. And I started my testing framework on JS, which is called CodeceptJS. So the idea was that if we go back to classical web testing, we had only Selenium as an option. So everything was Selenium. No matter
Yeah.
you were on Python, on Java, on Ruby, Selenium is everywhere. But that was broken by Node.js because Node.js started to spawn more and more engines. Some of them are already dead now. Some of them are still ongoing. So if you
Yes.
remember Protractor, it was
Mhm.
highly popular a few years ago. Now it's officially dead. And
Definitely.
uh, yeah, some frameworks are coming, some are going off, and that was the original idea of CodeceptJS that we have a meta framework that can be connected to any backend. So, for
Okay.
instance, if we talk about the protractor era, lots of people have stuck into immigration process from from their Playwright protractor scripts to something more modern, maybe WebDriver IO, maybe to Playwright and so on, and they have
Mhm.
to deal with it manually. In CodeceptJS, we write tests that are disconnected from the execution backend. So we can just go to the config and switch protractor to WebDriver IO. And
Okay.
the same
Wow.
we can do for Playwright. So if you had tests that were written in the Playwright, in the WebDriver IO, you can just change config. And this strategy worked well because Playwright, pretty modern thing, but lots
Mhm.
of our clients easily could upgrade to pick it up. Previously, we had Puppeteer support, we still have it, and it's just one config switch, and we just, how we deal with it, we implement the most common actions, like I click, I see, I wait for, I fill field, and so on. So we stick to the language pretty similar to how BDD works. when we describe our intentions, our actions in pretty um, high readable language, and this
Mm-hmm.
makes a test. So this is a second bonus of CodeceptJS, not just backend independency, but a very high readability of tests. So my idea that one of the big problems with tests that it's really hard to understand what they test by reading them. So because we're focusing on implementation and not on expectation, that if you open the classical Playwright test, it will be open page, do some magic there, expect some magic there to happen, and your mind will be blown up if you try to figure out actually does it test what is in specification or not? Was the specification changed? Does this test fail because specification changed or it needs to be updated? And probably you will end up copying this stuff into ChatGPT and ask, please explain what the shit happens here. And
Yeah.
this is not how CodeceptJS is designed, because we focus on the business, on the user interactions. So how you would describe your actions if you are a tester and you want to explain to junior what you do. That's how you write test in CodeceptJS. So you will explain it with words like, I am on page this one, then I field this one, this one, this one, I click here, and I click there, and then I see something. And that's the language we use to write tests in CodeceptJS. And yeah, that's the readability, stability to change into backends, and so on. And by doing this, CodeceptJS is quite small and but quite powerful framework. So small because we don't contain all the browser interactions engines inside of it, unlike Playwright or unlike Cypress. We
Mm-hmm.
delegate this to other libraries. And we focus on the developer experience, on the stability, and dealing with flaky tests, and so on. So we have a lot of features. Some of them still unique to us. Some of them were taken by other frameworks. But yeah, I'm encouraging you to investigate all of them, because I'll probably forget something when I will talk here about them. For instance, we were the first to introduce the parallel executions for browser tests before
Okay.
Playwright even appeared. I think Cypress still can't do this, and so
Yeah.
on.
So it's like a framework that goes on top of what we are used to use for the testing, right? An end-to-end testing framework. But I saw that it also is able to connect somehow with APM even, right?
Yeah, because Appium's it's still the same protocol WebDriver. We use the WebDriver IO library to connect it, and yeah, this is really cool that you can write in the same manner tests for Appium. I know teams that are doing it, and there are still lots of cool stuff we can do for mobile testing, like you write the test, and in some cases you tell the engine that this code should be executed only for the Android. This code only should for iOS. In iOS,
Wow.
use this locator and use this. So we also have this idea of smart locators. So when you use the iClick method, you can specify not just CSS XPath locator, but you can just write the text, like the text of the
Okay.
button or the text of the label, and it will scan the web page to connect it. So probably it will be slower in few milliseconds than just using the strict XPath, but it makes code more readable. And I understand that
And it makes
readability.
possible to have like one solution, one framework for different platforms, right? I don't need to switch for the API REST or GraphQL or mobile or web. I can just follow the same language, right? To test them all.
Yeah, yes, and
Wow.
lots of team already do this. We also have API testing with GraphQL, with REST API. We also have built-in ideas that you can combine APIs with testing, because you need to have a short path when you deal with data in testing.
Yeah.
For instance, to prepare user, to prepare some data in database, and this is the best to be done via API. So you create this data via API, and then you check it. And we even have the built-in libraries that will uh, clean up the create data. So you declare the data you need. Like I need two
Mhm.
products, I need one user, and with this in this declarative manner, API requests will be sent, and after the test, the library will send corresponding delete requests to the server, and it will be cleaned up. So you everything that should be abstracted from the test itself should be moved out of it. That's the idea. And the more declarative it will be, the more it will follow the business logic. The best test you will get.
Okay, wow. It sounds really incredible. And one thing that I also noticed and that I particularly like is the fact that you can actually pause the test to make sure that everything is right. Because sometimes when we are writing tests, it's cool for us to be able to pause on a specific step and see where exactly it's clicking or locating the element, right?
Right, this is probably one of the greatest feature of CodeceptJS I didn't mention yet, the interactive pause.
Yeah.
Actually I use it every time I start the test. I start with a blank line. I open
Mhm.
I execute this interactive mode, and by typing in, I am controlling the browser. So I
Okay.
don't write tests in the IDE. I just try different commands, go command by command, command by command, and in the end, all the successful commands I wrote will be saved into a file. I will just go and copy the contents of this file, and I will put them into the test. So unlike writing tests from the IDE, I have already checked all these commands, all the locators. I already picked the best one that actually works. And
Mhm.
yeah, I can do it for writing tests. I can do it for checking how is the test behavior. And I can use page objects inside of it. And I can even use AI in this mode to help me to understand how to work with this page.
Oh, wow. Okay, let's dive a little bit deeper into AI a little bit afterwards. Let me just quickly answer just one another question that I have because I noticed that it has also this automatically retried failed step. So it's more or less what Playwright does, right? So if a
Mhm.
test fails, we can control the retries to make sure that the test just didn't fail just because, right? Sometimes it was just on a wrong page or something happened or it was slow. So by retrying, we are reducing the flakiness, right?
Right. We have our own retry mechanism, but still we have the playwright on the background, so we do both the same thing. But our retries are universal for every connected uh, engine that can be used for browsers. So this the same will work for Appium and so on. But if we talk about the retries at all, that we have lots of options here, starting from retries of steps, retries of group of steps, retries of tests, and even there is even more modern feature like self-healing tests. So it's that if test has failed and you received the error, and you can
Mhm.
actually analyze this error, you can perform your custom code. So for instance, if you receive error that a server is not responding, you can
Okay.
send the request to restart the server and try to rerun the same test again. So this is like small programs that will analyze the failure and do some actions to revive the tests. Like browser hasn't started. Okay, this is pretty common thing. Like the
Mhm.
tests could fail, but we can handle this. Try to restart the browser and run the same test again. So this is like self-healing tests that are reacting to the failures. Uh, for instance, quite common error here that using the field command in CodeceptJS and the similar comments in WebDriver IO or Playwright, that some elements on a page which look like text input areas are not
Mhm.
actually the same one. So uh, they're not responding to content editable, or it's not input. And if you try to use type on these elements, they will be there will be error from the engine, like this is element can be filled. And in this case, the most obvious fix would be to just click on that element and start typing by keyboard without using the more better designed API. And one of the examples that self-healing can work is that if you see the error with filling on the field, try to click and type on this element. And there can be pretty more some of these recipes, we call it recipes in CodeceptJS, that you can
Mhm.
implement to heal your tests in a various way. And this is really depends more on your project. So if you work a lot with your tests, you know the most common errors in it, more common failures, and you can try to write the recipes that can fix your tests in this case.
Okay. But does this part uses AI already, or it's something that is just part of CodeceptJS?
The fun thing that at first I implemented this as AI feature. So
Okay.
yeah, but then I decoupled it from AI because I figured out that it is really cool by its own. So AI is just one way of killing tests. So
Mhm.
yeah, first of all, my idea was, okay, the test has failed. Can we just ask AI how to fix it?
Okay. I think we lost you. We can't hear you now. Just in case you can hear us. As I've mentioned in the beginning, there might be some issues with our streaming today, but at the end, I will post anyways a full episode of our conversation on different platforms, and you will be able to listen to a full episode without interruptions. But this is part of the live streaming that sometimes happen. Let's see if Michael can reconnect to our call and get back. It's always in the most interesting part, and we're just deep diving into AI thing. Also, thank you to everyone who's leaving questions here in the comments. I can see them. And once I have Michael back, I will definitely ask that to him. All right, maybe just another minute to see if we can restore the connection, hopefully. All right, guys, give me please 2 minutes. We'll get back to it. All right, I guess we will have Michael back to the stage. Welcome back
Yeah, yes. Where
in the
did you
most
lose me?
interesting moment. In the most
Oh,
interesting moment. So you started to say that you began this self-healing with AI, but then you decoupled it.
mhm. Yeah, and yeah, I started by implementing this. I was really passionate about all this AI thing coming in, and the Chat GPT by the time was the only provider. So I built in the OpenAI dependency in CodeceptJS. But the year ago, when I started playing it with it, the response time by AI was about 20 to 30 seconds. So I had to add spinner to the CodeceptJS first time to make it work. So just for this feature, I had to add spinners. But this the AI has really evolved. So if we didn't notice, but they were really optimized. There are lots of AI providers now. So nowadays you can use not just OpenAI, but any AI provider which you want. And what
Mhm.
I figured out that Mistral, the open source provider, with GrokU. GrokU is a cloud platform that executes the Mistral as ChatGPT does. So like it's like
Okay.
OpenAI alternative. They reduce the test to AI to 1 second. So if you perform healing of tests and it's just 1 second, it's really cool and it can be used for production. So if, for instance, let's say we have 100 tests on CI, and if we just think that we can try to heal them instead of running all tests or failed tests, let's just allow AI to heal these tests before marking them as failed. And if they run on CI, that would save us a lot of time. Instead of
Mhm.
running them manually, we can ask AI to do it. So um, here how it works. So we uh, get a copy of a test. So we get the source code of it, and
Okay.
we send it to the AI with the next prompt like "Hello, AI provider. Here is my test." Well, I click here, 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 and you see I have failed doing this action on this page. Here is my HTML, and the AI can easily analyze the HTML code of it and
Okay.
provide valid ideas on how to fix the failure. uh, because the AI, the large language models are really good in understanding the context of the page, not just the classes or IDs and so on. It can really provide the valid examples. So, for instance, if the button has changed from login and sign in, from the perspective of vector database, it will be the same vector, mostly the same. So it will easily catch this situation and update the code accordingly. So this is really cool. And also it can get the better locators, use IDs instead of classes, and so on and so on. And what's also cool that the AI providers are used, they will respond in CodeceptJS code. So
Okay.
what's happening is that after we asked it, we received the CodeceptJS code. We can execute it on the fly and
Mhm.
uh, and check it. And if it worked, we assume the test was healed, and then we go to the next steps. So I don't know if it's possible in other framework to revive the steps when it has already failed, but in CodeceptJS it's possible. So yes, first I tried with AI, but then I thought that there are lots of situations that really need the same mechanism of reviving tests, not connecting to AI. And network connections or the database connections can also
Yeah.
be healed. And in in this case, AI can't help you because it doesn't know your internal infrastructure. So if you have to deal a lot with these connections, network errors with your infrastructure, you are better in figuring out how to fix it. Because I really saw a lot of tests where people just use the retries, they wrap everything in retries and so on to work with instability of connections. And because it stands against my principles of making tests readable and understandable, I thought that having the small program to heal the test in this case would be much better, because we will decouple the implementation from tests, and tests will still be readable. So AI healing is one of the options of healing in CodeceptJS.
Michael, I'm sorry. We have actually here a question about this from the audience, and I
Mhm.
think it suits well. It suits well this moment because Kaze is asking, what exactly you mean by healing? What does this healing mean?
The healing that if the test has failed with some error on, let's say we have a test with 20 steps, and the test has failed on step number 5. If we
Okay.
fix this step, we can try some different approaches, like our healers or the AI. If AI, for instance, figures out how to fix this step, so we received the response, we executed it, we didn't see any error, so we assume that AI performed the command correctly. The next steps, starting from 5, will also be executed. So all the 20 steps of the test will be executed in the end. And from the
But is it
like
performed
it,
during the execution? Like, imagine that I have this test running and
mhm.
it failed during the run. So do I need then after see that it failed, ask, click something to heal my test, or will it heal somehow during the execution, or how does it
uh,
work?
it works on the fly, absolutely. So you don't need
Oh,
to ask
wow.
anything. It just fixes it, and from the perspective of execution, you don't change anything. So the only difference will be that in the end you will see the table with the fixes, and it will ask you to update the code, and it will give you the proposals like, here we have changed this to this, and you can probably try to do it the same.
Oh, wow. So, okay, so it works smart. It sees that it's failing. It tries to find a solution while running. And then if
Mhm.
that actually helps, then it will suggest me saying that, look, you have this error in your code probably, or if you change your code to this version, then this test won't fail again.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Wow,
So
this is mind blowing.
yes, the biggest trick here, that how we send data to the AI, because as I said that I started to play around with it a year ago, and there was
Hmm.
a pretty small context window that AI could handle. It was about 4K tokens. It's like 20 kilobytes of the web page, so it was pretty small.
Yeah.
So if we try to send all the content of the page to the AI, it would be too much for it. So now the context window has increased to 16K tokens. It's like about 50,000 kilobytes of data. And what we also do, we remove all the text elements from the page. So for instance, if it's a blog post, we don't really
Hmm.
need the contents. So our know-how here is that we, before sending the request to AI, we get the HTML of the page and we remove all non-interactive elements from the page. So if it can't be clicked or it can't be it's not the fields and so on and so on. So we remove everything that it's just a text content. So by doing this, we reduce the size of a page, and this is we also help the AI to focus on the elements we have. So, this was the hardest challenge to meet when implementing this healing, to do it correctly and to reduce the size. And I think with the uh, m- uh, evolution of AI, the context window will grow, and the more and more pages will work for this case. So.
Okay. And what if there is actually a bug? So imagine that my test is running and it finds a bug, right? It will
Mhm.
try to heal, and maybe if by changing the code it can tweak and make the test pass, but that was actually a bug. So I just need to see when it sends me a suggestion of changing my code, I need to evaluate myself whether I want to accept that change, or if it's a bug, then I say no, please ignore this change because it's actually a bug. Is that right?
Well, yeah, actually, it doesn't update your code. So it will, yeah, if it will change the test on the fly. It will write the suggestions, but I don't see any scenario when fixing something in this very naive approach would find a bug. So it will probably just work with finding a better locator, or because this scenario it doesn't change the scenario of a test. If you
Mm-hmm.
was clicking and then the execution has continued and the click has failed, then healing it will just help the test to pass. Because if it for instance healed incorrectly, like it clicked an element that, so it clicked absolutely different element, and
Yeah.
the next step will fail in this case. So it will still produce an error because one click won't heal all the test if it's failed by its nature.
Okay. And also, I have here another question. This framework works with single pages web apps.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, just like all others. I really don't differentiate that the frameworks. Is it single page or non-single page? Because the browser testing is very similar for all this kind of things. So yeah, it works good. Just we need to wait for some elements to appear if it's a single page, which was not a thing when we tested the classical web applications. But not a big deal actually, not a very big difference.
Okay. And what about security actually? Because whenever there is some part that relies on AI, I think security becomes also a concern of our privacy of our application, right, and our code.
hmm Yeah, this is
Um,
a good question. This is why I have changed the provider. So previously, as I said, it was bound to the OpenAI. And this
mhm.
was the most popular question about, okay, we can't send the data to ChatGPT, it's against our policies. And one guy from the Salesforce said that, hey, we have our own ChatGPT at home and we can't use their API, so we need to use our own API. So in the recent version, in 3.6 of CodeceptJS, you write your own requests to the provider you actually want. So, as you know,
Oh,
you can use the enterprise version of OpenAI. You can use OpenAI on the Microsoft Azure platform, which is also secure. You can use self-hosted Mistral or something else. So the idea is that you write the request to the AI provider you trust. It can be in-house
great.
provider, which works on your infrastructure, and that's it.
Okay, great. Thank you. And then I want to frame Testomat.io here in this picture, right,
Oh,
of this whole solution.
sorry, I wanted to share another cool idea of the
Oh,
AI
sure.
that we have implemented for CodeceptJS. I asked one of the users of CodeceptJS to test this AI feature, and he came up with the idea that it would be cool if this AI could generate page objects. And I think this
Oh,
idea was in the air for about half a year, but finally I got the weekend to implement it, and I'm really excited about it. So the idea that you open so you start with a blank test, or you just execute the interactive shell on the page, and the browser has opened a page, and you then ask it, please generate a page object for this page. And just the same way as we do it with the self-healing, we execute the prompt on the AI, and it creates the locators, which it thinks that are important on this page, and even actions. So in the end, you can um, uh, so you get the valid page object file, and by going
mhm.
page by page, page by page, you can quickly create a full infrastructure for your testing framework when you start testing the new project. What is also cool is that after you asked AI to create this page object, you can execute its methods to check if they are valid. Because sure, AI can hallucinate, and
Yeah,
you can't trust it, but anyway, it helps with the boilerplate, creating the first draft of page objects, and you can try what actually worked for you, what not, and going page by page, page. You already have all the page objects working, so you don't need to spend your time in dev tools finding these elements. You can incorporate them in your tests and work with the page objects in tests and use AI to generate them. So this is a really cool feature. It's absolutely new, and I encourage you to try it. And I
where we
really
can
think
try it. Help us.
so. You go to the CodeceptJS. Um, you should install it, and there is a page AI testing on the documentation, where we explain all the scenarios that the AI is used in the framework. By the way, CodeceptJS is the first testing framework that incorporates AI features natively in its core,
Mhm.
and one of the newest features is working with page objects. So
Awesome.
yeah,
I'll
please
add the
try it.
links in all platforms for people that are listening to us, so that you can have a look at the website and then get your documentation set up and everything you might need.
Yeah, yeah. Uh,
Great, thank you. And it sounds really exciting again. I'm happy to know that this was your weekend project, or like finishing up this is so recent thing, and we are learning about it like firsthand. It sounds really exciting.
mhm. So now I can tell about the Testomat.io, which is
Yeah.
the latest project I work on. So previously I was working on the open source testing frameworks, CodeceptJS, Conception, and while working with it, I discovered that lots of people still write tests, but they don't use the test management system, or they are not
Mhm.
really happy about it. So when we had a first poll from the CodeceptJS user to figure out the market, if it really is there, we were surprised that the spreadsheet was the most popular test management system in the community.
Yes,
and
by far.
yeah, and we had the idea that hey, probably we can go to that market, and we created the test management system that works for automated tests. So this was our first idea, to have this automated only. Then we had lots of requests to add the manual testing, and after 3 years of evolution, this is like full-fledged test management system that can be compared to TestRail, but not as slow, not as buggy, with a fresh new UI, with more simpler solutions, and so on. So the Testomat is like next generation test management system, which you will love if you love modern interfaces, and you love the software that doesn't stuck loading pages and so on. For instance, we had clients that migrated from other test management systems like Qtest and TestRail, and they were migrating because their systems were really slow. For
Yes.
instance, it was because they had another about 70,000 test cases.
Oh
So
wow.
this was a bit challenging to us, but with the help of these clients, our system really supports up to 70, I think even more. So we can easily handle this number of test
This
cases.
number. And how difficult is it to migrate? Because I mean, most of us we have our tests in some type of test management. And
Mhm.
from TestRail, last time I had to migrate, I had to do it like test suite by test suite. So it was a little bit, and then the fields were not matching in my new solution. So it took me, I don't know, more than a week to migrate everything. How
Yeah,
difficult is it?
this is still a pain point. We are trying to improve it. So recently we released the script that will help you doing it. Uh,
Okay.
for instance, so previously we had this using the CSV file. So you export things in TestRail
Yeah.
as a CSV, you import in Testomat, and yeah, lots of information is lost because the format in which TestRail exports it different all the time. So we had lots of
Yeah.
issues with this. That it's so flaky, and the attachments are also not included. So we wrote a better solution which uses API, and API
Oh.
seems like more so data strict, data wise solution because it can actually get better idea of the project and handle all these fields. So all the custom fields are also migrated in this case. So
Okay.
if you import the lots of data from the test trail, please try to use our API solution. It's not JS script. If something, it's open source. So if you see that, well, some data is not imported as you wanted, maybe the structure, maybe the text is not as you expected, you can update the code and re-import. So we gave this flexibility.
Oh, wow, that sounds cool. And one thing that I personally love from what I saw at Estimate is actually it's a small thing, but I think it's genius. Is the fact that you mentioned how many tests were never run, because we
Uh,
end up with so many tests, and sometimes we just don't touch them at all. And I think this is genius for us to make us aware of how many tests are actually there just forgotten.
yeah, that happens a lot of time.
Yeah, and it's such a small thing, but I think it's very cool idea, and I think it's great for us to know as well. And because there is also something psychological that just prevents QAs from deleting any tests. But being
Mhm.
aware of this test that we don't touch at all just make us more aware of like revisit, reevaluate, and make sure that we either run them or we just don't need them. And yeah, we
Yeah.
just keeping them for as a souvenir.
Well, we probably sometimes keep it as documentation. So we also treat the test cases as documentation, and yeah,
Yeah,
probably when it's 70,000 cases, it's pretty verbose documentation. But
yeah.
which are less, it's a good overview of what features we have in projects and the ability to test them from the system. So, for instance, our internal documentation of Testomat is also written in Testomat, and we are inspired by Notion in this case. So, what
Hmm.
we try to build that system, the live documentation system that is also a test cases that you can actually execute, and that would be like the source of truth about your project from the test case system.
Okay, and it also has a Jira plugin, right? So you can actually work in your regular setup in Jira and be able to see the story and what tests it has, right?
Yeah. This was a really big challenging sub project to us. When we finished it, we thought, well, maybe we don't need Testomat at all if you have this such a good Jira plugin. But
Yeah.
so Jira plugin is as a standalone application that is built in into Jira, and it allows you to do pretty much the same things that you do in Testomat, like running manual tests from the Jira interface. So in this case, it's really similar to X-Ray because it's built in into Jira, and you can work with the test cases from it. So you can execute tests on CIs if it's automated tests. You can execute manual, you can write test cases, you can edit test cases. And the thing is that our main storage of test cases are still on the Testomat side. But when
Mm-hmm.
you connect these test cases to issues, you can edit them from the Jira, and managers and QAs even not need to open Testomat to interact with the test cases. So Jira plugin is pretty much featured, and everything.
That is so cool.
Yeah, everything you need to do some basic testing, like retest all the test cases for these issues. You can do it from the
Yeah.
Jira interface.
Great. Thank you so much. Let's wrap it up with two quick questions. I would love to ask you what has been inspiring, motivating. Can you recommend us something? Maybe it can be a blog post, a video, a book, or something that has been inspiring for you lately.
Lately, oh, I'm really sorry. I think my lately I wasn't reading books or blog posts and so on because of power outages. I was focused only on work. So when I have the electricity, I'm just working, and probably this is just got out of my mind at all. So maybe. If you will release this podcast, I will add something to notes, but nothing comes to my mind at this
Well,
moment.
apparently CodeceptJS and Testomat has been very inspiring for you because I can hear the passion that you talk about this. So
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think we can count that.
Okay.
Great. And is there anything else that I didn't ask you and you would like to add?
Well, I think I talked a lot, and I really like the conversation. So thanks for inviting me. Uh, and yeah, the AI is really cool technology, and we need to think how it will improve the testing. Sure, it won't replace us, so I still treat the AI usage in CodeceptJS as a copilot, not as the guy who writes the test instead of you.
Definitely.
But I think we should prepare our tests to introduce more and more of these copilot features into our testing to to make us more productive and make our tests better. The same thing for Testomat. We also want to incorporate more AI features. As I said, if we treat the test cases as documentation, it would be cool to ask our test management system, like, is this feature covered with tests yet? What scenarios are not covered in this for this feature, and do these questions inside the test management system. And I think this future is really near, and we need to follow it
It's
and we need to use it.
really, it sounds so exciting and promising, and we can touch at least the beginning of the birth of it, right? And
Mhm.
but I think that it develops so fast that probably in the near future we will be able to just superpower our tests in so many levels.
Yeah, yeah, that's true.
And it's great to have enthusiasts like you just bringing the best tool to power as QAs and make our work easier
Yeah,
so that we can focus on what really matters.
yeah, for this, that CodeceptJS is not a big project because yeah, it was by me only with a small team of volunteers, and our main competitors on the market are Microsoft, Google, and the Cypress, which are $1 million company. So probably that's the reason why CodeceptJS is not as popular as our big competitors, but I still appreciate you to try it. because it's also good. And Testament is the same story. We don't have any investments. We built it on our own funds. So we started as a small company, but we are growing, and I really hope we will take our place on the market and make a really good TMS that everyone will love to use.
Awesome. Well, we have people here in the comments sending you congratulations and saying that it seems incredible. And I joined to that for sure. And thank you so much for finding time to show and explain a little bit more and share with our community all these great solutions. Thank you to everyone who has found some time to spend it with us today. And I will link all the information in the official after live stream episodes. Don't worry, you will find us definitely on YouTube, on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and any platform that is usual to you. Thank you, everyone, and see you next time.
Thank you for inviting. Thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.